Good morning, welcome back. It is Thursday. Today is another flea market find video. This is actually part 2 of what we picked up this past weekend at some flea markets up in Lafayette. I wanted it to be an exclusively 164th edition of flea market finds, but unfortunately I forgot to show this one in the last one. And when I'm out at flea markets and looking at stuff, when I look at items, I look at for 3 reasons. One, is it interesting? Or, is it different? Is it something that I like? Obviously, that's one of the reasons you would buy things, is because you like it. Second reason, is it a good price point? I'm not like a regular reseller. I very rarely resell things. A lot of times things are traded or whatever. But often if I find something a good enough price point, and if I think, okay, maybe this is worth, I can spend $5 on something, and maybe 6 months or a year from now I'll turn it for 20 or whatever. But like I say, I don't ever buy with the intent of just flipping. Not my thing. Or the third reason I buy things occasionally is because there's an attachment to it. There's a reason, or there's some symbolism or something to my life. So that's what this diecast represents. It's a 1/18 scale by American Muscle. Now, it's the wrong make of car, aluminum, because those weren't around in 1985. But as you see by the deck lid, it's Remembering Davy, so it's a tribute piece. But it's a somewhat of a replica of his cup car that he made in his first start at Talladega in 1985 for Haas Ellington. Lancaster's Chewing Tobacco. I always like these paint schemes like this, but the thing with this particular car that I like so much about it, from Davey Allison's first start, is I was at that race at Talladega in 1985, and it was also the first NASCAR race that I ever attended. So, like I say, I always like finding things like that kind of have I have an attachment to, or I have a link to. So, like things like that. So let's get to this. We've got quite a lot here that we picked up, and I don't even know where to start at. I got 2 huge bags here that were just absolutely packed to the rafters. Let's start with this one. These are all 1/64th scale, I believe. There might be a 1/43rd scale. Yeah, there's a couple 1/43rd scales in here. This has got to be from, 95, 96? But it's Rodney Combs, I believe. Yeah, Rodney Combs, when he was driving for Richard Petty's team in the Busch Series. Matchbox, 96. White Rose Collectibles. We'll put that one back there for now. Then, I may or may not have this one. Some of these I don't know that I have or I don't have. Winner Circle, Kerry Earnhardt, with the Kannapolis Intimidators minor league team. Those of you that don't know, this is an ARCA car. You see the Hoosier tires on it. But Dale Earnhardt actually bought into a minor league baseball team. They were the Piedmont Boll Weevils. Then they changed their name to the Kannapolis Intimidators. Speaking of the Intimidator, we have a Lifetime Series car here, 1998 Goodwrench, the Bass Pro Shops car that he ran in the All-Star race. And I'm not going to put all the cars up there because it's going to get really crowded really quickly. We spoke of the 1/43rd scale. It's going to be from 1991, Kenny Wallace's Busch Series car. So, Cox Treated Lumber. I believe his brother owned that car. I can't remember all the stories behind that, but definitely a cool little piece, as well as this one. Alan Kowicki, Lifetime Series. His championship-winning car. I don't even know if it says Underbird or Thunderbird. It does say Thunderbird, so it's not the Atlanta race car. Then we have the car that Tony Stewart made his NASCAR debut in. This is the Busch Series car, owned by Harry Ranier. And this is Mariah Vision 3 Entertainment Pontiac. And if you look, I was looking to double check. At first I thought this picture was at Rockingham, but it is at Daytona, where he made his first career start, because he was starting 32nd, I believe, in that red car back there is Bobby Dotter, who started 37th, if I remember my numbers correctly. This is an iconic car. The Nova, the Busch Series Nova that Dale Earnhardt drove in the late 80s. And I think we're going to just start setting some cars off to the side here. This part of the RCCA Racing Collectibles collector series from the early 90s. They have Junie Donlevy listed, but he was the car owner. This is one of my favorite paint schemes, too. But Dick Brooks actually drove that car in 1984. And they did mostly, that series pretty much was Fords that they did. And this one's Bobby Allison. Of course, it's got the Miller paint job on it. Obviously, they didn't put the Miller branding on there, but it says Allison Motorsports. There's Bobby's logo. But the reason he's in a Ford, because in 1985, after he left Dyegard, he ran his own team, and they ran Fords. Now, this one I'm going to have to get in there and fix the little cardboard, but that's Rodney Combs driving at the time in 1987, 86, 87. Elmo Langley's car that he owned, Sonny King Ford and Honda. I believe Sonny King Ford was a dealership in Anniston, Alabama. We have a Busch Series car of Jimmy Johnson, the Herzog-Jackson team, Excedrin PM. So that's kind of a special paint scheme. Then we have another Kenny Wallace RCCA car. So they didn't do all Fords, but there you see the Dirt Devil Pontiac. And I can't remember if this was the car that Sam McMahon or McMahon, or however you say his last name, owned, or if it was the one that Sabco eventually owned. We do have a set of cards here. Now, this is kind of roughed up, but I did buy this for the cards and not necessarily the die cast. So we'll probably get into that eventually and do the 93 AC racing set. And this one's pretty cool, from Action 1998. Darrell Waltrip. This was the last car that DW raced out of his shop. Of course, you see 300. Tim Flock was dying of cancer at the time, and DW had lost his sponsor. This was as far as he could go, and he wanted to run the number 300 in memory of Tim Flock. NASCAR said, no, you can only run 2-digit numbers, so he reverted back to the 17. But there you see a very, very cool piece of NASCAR history, DW with the number 300, because that's painted after the Carl Kiekever cars that Tim Flock ran in the 50s. We're going to have some different ones here, just trying to get through. I did get a K2. If you don't know the story behind that, that's Dale Earnhardt's first race car. K2, that 56, yeah, is that a 56 Ford Victoria. So it's always cool to pick that car up. Now we're just sitting these off to the side because we're out of room. Another winner's circle here. I don't ever really remember seeing this one, but the Dale Jr. Superman car. Can't remember if that was raced maybe at Phoenix. Does that sound right? During this era. It's got the cool Superman card. It's got the Superman branding, and of course Superman on the car. Like that. And we have a Kevin Harvick with the... Now, I think this was funny at first, but I didn't realize it till later. It's a Winter Circle brand, but they have Action Collectibles there on the car. But at that time, Action had already bought Winter Circle, and I didn't realize it. But E.T., this is when they had a re-release of the movie, I believe, during that time. Now, this one, I don't ever remember seeing this one. It's a Busch Series car, Mike Skinner. And this was, I believe, David Ridling's team. I was going to say Kurt Rourke, but it was David Ridling. He won one race in this car in 1999 at Atlanta, then was disqualified, and then Dave Blaney was given the win, and then they appealed it, and then they gave the win back. So Mike Skinner's only Busch Series win, which would have became Dave Blaney's first Busch Series win, went back to Mike Skinner's only Busch Series win, if you can follow that. We have another hood, race hood collection here. Dale Earnhardt with the Oreo. I believe this particular paint scheme was run in the Busch Clash in 2001. I really like that blue outline of the numbers. Really, really accents it and goes along with the Oreo branding really nicely. Now this one's super cool, from the 1989, the original Racing Champions. So you look at that and you compare it. Let's just do a side-by-side here, and you just compare the detail in a matter of like 10 or 11 years. And it's just incredible to see how much more detail that they ended up getting over that period of time. Then we have the first Cup start for Dale Earnhardt for Norman Negree in this number 8 Dodge, 1975 World 600. There's a picture of Dale at the wheel. Not too many pictures exist of that car in action that day. And if you listen to the Scene Vault podcast, they had Ed Negree's son Norman Negree had an interview, and they talked about that particular car. And that car doesn't exist. Norman actually witnessed it being crushed back in the 70s when they closed down their shop. And he knew which car it was. And this was before Dale was who he became. And they had the car destroyed. So when people say, no, we got Dale's first car, no, they don't. They might have a piece from it, you know, like you said, they might have a spring off of it, or they might have, you know, a piston or something like that, but the actual car got destroyed. These are always cool. The basically like a test track series. If you're not familiar with this, prior to NASCAR basically having a testing ban, cars would come to especially Daytona with a primered paint job, and they would have 3 or 4 cars, and it might be 24, 24A, 24B, whatever, and just be primered out and maybe have 1 or 2 sponsor logos on there. We have the Pontiac 1989 Busch Series car of Dale Earnhardt. This car was actually numbered 87 for Greg Sachs. Greg had qualified the car. Dale flipped his regular Busch Series car in practice, destroyed it, and Greg did not qualify, so they offered to let him run that car in the place of the car that Dale had qualified and destroyed. This one's pretty cool. 1976, Walter Ballard, who just recently passed away. This was the car that he owned for Dale Earnhardt. 1976, you see. So very, very cool. I don't think I have that when I'm looking on my wall, and I don't see it hanging up there. So I've got some cars that I got to move around to fill some gaps up over here. Looks like we got a couple more cars to go, and we'll call it a day. Got one Racing Champions here from 2002, Brett Bodine, Collector Series. I got this one because there's not very many Brett Bodine Hooters cars out there. He didn't race with that sponsor for very long. They pulled out mid-season, so not a whole lot with that, so I thought that was pretty cool. This car ran in one race, 1991 Daytona 500, Alan Kulwicki. He started 1991 without a sponsor. I'm trying to see, yeah, I guess that roof font does match. But he started 1991 without a sponsor. R.J. Reynolds picked 5 unsponsored cars in that year's Daytona 500. As many of you know, we had Operation Desert Shield, Operation Desert Storm going on in the Middle East. So they picked 5 cars to represent the armed forces. Kulwicki had the Army. Navy went to Greg Sachs. Marines went to Buddy Baker. Coast Guard went to Dave Marcus. And Air Force went to Mickey Gibbs. And each car ran a themed scheme based off of the colors of each respective division. But Kulwicki was the highest finishing one. I believe he finished in 8th, 7th, 8th place, so he's the only one that finished in the top 10. And our final car of the day, 164 scale winner's circle, America Online, Kevin Harvick. Of course, this is the Race Hood series. This car ran in the All-Star race, and it was one of many that crashed in the first corner of the first lap and ended up having to go to a backup car without this paint scheme. And there you see the 3 right in front of the Goodwrench logo there. So good detailing there by Winter Circle. So like I said, we picked up a lot this weekend. And that is our wrap-up of flea market finds for this particular trip. I do have some cards from a previous flea market run that we did a few weeks ago that we will be getting into those soon. But like I say, lots of cool pickups. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. It's always fun to go through these die casts, especially when I'm at the store. There's a flea market that we went to in Lafayette that one guy had probably 4 different booths of NASCAR die casts, and there was probably, I'm going to guess, 300 or 400 cars between all the booths that he had. Had some reasonable prices on some, which is why I picked them up. I'm looking forward to going back here we'll go back up there in a few more months and maybe find some more. But anyway, thanks again for watching. Really, really do appreciate it. Make sure you hit that like button and that subscribe button on your way out. We are, like I said, we did clear that 2,500 subscriber threshold. We've been holding steady, and we're actually at the recording of this at 2,506. So I'm hoping by this weekend I'll have details for the giveaway as to what it's going to be and when we will do it. That's the other thing, is just kind of creating an opportunity and a time to do that, because I want to make sure that if you're in it, that you'll be able to be on the live stream when we do that and be able to participate in that. So thanks again, as always, for watching. We will see you at noon for Fast Packs, where we're going to rip another pack of 1993 Action Pack Racing. We'll see you then.